everyone, and thank you for joining me again today for the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. As I mentioned last week, I am currently hosting a bereaved Mother's Day gift exchange for lost moms. I'm also currently putting together a Lost Mom book club. If you are interested in finding out more details about either of these, you can check out the post on the Journey for Jasmine Instagram or Facebook. So today I am talking with Dr. Katie Wood. She is a mother, a pharmacist, and an integrative fertility coach. She's the founder and CEO of Farm to Wellness and the brands Happy Nourished Motherhood and the Feminine Formula. Katie helps women over 30 to nourish their mind and body for optimal fertility health so that they can confidently conceive with ease. Katie comes with 8 years of experience as a retail pharmacist. This background in conventional medicine is what first piqued her awareness that people need more intimate coaching towards health and vitality without depending on pharmaceuticals. After experiencing a lack of support and education through her fertility and pregnancy journey, she became determined to advocate for women's health. Katie is passionate about supporting and empowering women on their fertility and pregnancy transition into motherhood, using her calm, gentle guidance and taking a holistic approach focusing on nutrition, lifestyle, and mind-body connection. You can find her on her website at Happy Nourished Motherhood or on her Instagram at The Wellness Pharmacist. And then she also has her own podcast called Rising into Mindful Motherhood. Hello, everyone. I am here today with Katie. Katie, could you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. Yeah, so my name is Dr. Katie Wood. I am a wife. I'm also a mother to my 16-year-old stepson, and she'll be 3.5 this month. Her name is Olivia. And I also have my 2 dogs, my 2 cats. I'm a big animal lover. I am a pharmacist. That is my background. But I have shifted that to become an integrative fertility coach, really based off of what I experienced in my own journey to get pregnant. And I'm very natural minded. I love everything about being outside. So that's just a little bit about me.
So, what exactly is a fertility coach? What do you do? What do you help other women do with that?
Sure. So obviously, as you know, and I'm sure your listeners know, everyone's journey is so different. So it's really a personalized experience that I give my clients. Kind of meet them where they're at in life. So I've had women work with me who are just getting off of birth control, but they wanted to prepare their body to get pregnant. I've had women come to me. They had adenomyosis, so they were having really painful periods. They were pretty much told that like their only option was to do IUI, which there are ways that you can support your body to kind of heal the adenomyosis. Um, I've worked with women who the quote unquote infertility side may not even really been on them. Their spouses had basically no sperm, pretty much. So working with their husbands, I've worked with PCOS. I've worked with women who have had miscarriages as well. So a lot of times when going through that, I think as women, we want to explore why, what happened. So what I really help them with is basically figuring out the potential root cause. I mean, sometimes you can never really know what caused a miscarriage, but you can still find underlying, conditions that could be going on. And that's really what I do with my fertility clients as well. So if they have some health issues that have been going on, then we really try to get to the bottom of that. It's not just okay, with PCOS, a lot of women on the conventional side, like, okay, take birth control, take metformin, take Clomid to help you ovulate. But on the flip side so that's where like my pharmacy expertise comes in, as I have a background in medication and what it can do to our bodies, side effects, a lot of medications can cause nutrient deficiencies, so many different things. But really, women that come to me, they want to work in a more natural minded way and support system. So we'll try to heal their body as much as we can. And a lot of it is overall energetics as well, like how we feel in our body. Do we feel safe? Do we have limiting beliefs coming up? How are we spending our time? Mindlessly scrolling on social media, or are we putting time into ourselves to heal both, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? So that's kind of a brief synopsis of how I help.
I like that though that you're able to integrate, your pharmacist background along with other like natural things and other things that people can do. I think it's good to have both. They both have their
Yeah,
place.
exactly. Hmm.
And I actually have PCOS too. And what you were saying about PCOS is exactly what they did for me. Put me on birth control, put me on metformin, didn't tell me anything about like the lifestyle changes, just put me on
Hmm.
the medication and that was that.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you telling me that. And there's so many different kinds of PCOS. Like PCOS is really just a collection of symptoms. And some women can have PCOS that's due to blood sugar, like unregulation, and some women have PCOS due to inflammation or adrenals or just so many different things. And I just don't think that conventional medicine takes the time to figure that out.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah,
So, can you talk a little bit about your infertility experience?
sure. So, let's see. Well, I was on birth control since 15. So I think by the time we decided to start a family, I was on it for a little over 13 years. So that's a pretty long time. I was close to third. I was maybe 28, so I was on birth control for half of my life, like when you think about it. And that's a really, really long time, and it was all consecutive. I never really took any breaks. Um, and even though I was a pharmacist, I still asked my OBGYN at the time, we're gonna try to have a family, but I've been on the birth control. When should I stop taking it versus when we can start trying? And the advice I was given, this may be different for everyone, was you can stop the birth control and start trying in the same month. So that's what we did. I discontinued it in November of 2017, and I did the thing that I now tell my community and clients not to do. I set a deadline. I had all thoughts and intentions to be pregnant by Christmas so I could announce it to my family. So that's, looking back, it's kind of like, well, that was pretty naive of me to think it would happen that fast. So obviously that did not happen. And I think setting that goal, we'll call it, really made it difficult. When you get that first negative test, it's like, okay, next month, but then you get another one, and then you get another one, and it's that it really starts taking its toll on you mentally and emotionally. And that's something that I do try to work on with my clients as well, is sometimes we don't realize we hold traumas that we had from growing up, and a lot of it has to do with our personalities. So, perfectionism, worthiness. So feeling worthy to be a mom, that was something that started coming up for me when it wasn't happening. Like maybe I'm just not worthy of being a mom, or I just don't deserve to be a mom, because I never had the thought um, all throughout growing up that I wanted to have kids. That was kind of something I decided with my husband. So in the back of my mind, I'm just like, oh, well, I'm just being punished because I didn't want to have kids. But obviously that's not the truth. And Um, talking about childhood wounds, one of mine that I've recently uncovered is kind of worthiness and feeling that I need to strive and excel to get, recognition, acknowledgement, love. So having straight A's, getting my pharmacy degree, all of those things. So that's kind of what getting pregnant was for me. It was like, okay, it was like, all right, I need to score an A on this test. But then when it doesn't, it's just so different than um accomplishments that you make throughout your life. And I know that now, and that's what I share with the women in my community. So yeah, so I just kept getting the negative tests, and I did reach out to the same OBGYN. I think it was a few months into it. And she just said, you're fine. Everything's healthy. Just keep on trying. And that was pretty much it, which at the end of the day, for most women, they may be fine, but she still didn't give me any actionable steps, any tips, any nutrition tips, any lifestyle tips. Stress, sleep, so many things can affect fertility, and I didn't get any of that. And luckily enough for me, my cycle did come back. It was regular right after stopping my birth control, but um I still just didn't, it's kind of like, yeah, you're fine, go out the door and then come back, if you're still not getting pregnant. So that was, I think, in February of 2018 that I saw her. And then, as a pharmacist, I'm just like going down all the rabbit holes, Googling late at night, what are the 20 supplements I can take to increase my chances of getting pregnant? And that was me. Like, I was taking a bunch of stuff and it just wasn't happening for me. So I I think I was doing one of those, research rabbit holes, and I found, acupuncture and how that can be beneficial for fertility. So I did some research on that, and I found a woman who was local to me. She was no longer in the area, so she actually recommended a gentleman in Ithaca, which is near me as well, who is an acupuncturist. And he was absolutely amazing. It was a really, really eye-opening experience for me. I mean, Chinese medicine just really looks at the body as a whole. I learned a lot about myself, like my constitution and really or from what I can recall, because I started seeing him, I think it was like the end of April, beginning of May of 2018. And um, he found that my blood was really stagnant and he felt that it was from the birth control. So they have some, I was taking Chinese herbs. He was doing the acupuncture, gua sha, and moxie on me. I also have a very cold constitution. So one thing that we also prioritized for me was just ensuring that I'm staying warm enough. So like basically wearing like one of those tunic tank tops underneath my shirts just to make sure like if anything was ever drafty, like my body was just staying warm pretty much. Because I was working in the pharmacy then and there's air conditioning. So I would always be freezing like, in the summer. So that was just a no-go. And, kind of trying to limit raw food. And I'm not saying this is for everyone to go out and do this. That these are just things that he found to support me and my body and what he was finding, through his workups. Limiting raw foods and kind of focusing on a lot of red foods, red meat, red raspberries, things like that. So instead of eating the raspberries raw, I would heat them up in a little bit of coconut oil, which coconut oil is amazing for fertility as well, healthy fats. So we just focused on a lot of things. And a couple months went by and I still wasn't getting pregnant. So I actually switched OB offices. Where I was going, it was a little bit farther than where I would want to go if I was to get pregnant. So I switched to a closer office and I was actually seeing a midwife. And I had a consultation with her. I described my concerns, explained to her everything I had done, and I had pretty much gotten the same advice. Everything looks good. She didn't take any lab work, nothing. We didn't talk about nutrition or lifestyle or anything like that. It was just everything looks good. Keep trying. But if you want to be proactive, you could reach out to the fertility specialist clinic to schedule your appointment because to schedule at the 1 year mark, pretty much. So that's what I was left with after that.
I actually used acupuncture as well, and I think I loved it. It's such a unique take on things that, so many people don't normally do. And I liked the methods they used.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband and I full-heartedly feel that that was a huge component to my body healing from the birth control and anything else that maybe was troubling it. So I met with her in July of 2018, and I still continue to work with the acupuncturist and follow like anything he said to me. I'm like, yes, I'm putting my full trust into you. And then I did eventually get my positive pregnancy test, and that was in the beginning of September. So that was amazing. But the whole experience was really eye-opening for me on so many different levels, just witnessing the lack of education and support that there is out there for women. And um, and then obviously just as women, the pressure that we put onto ourselves. And um, another thing that I reflect back on and regret is I'm the baby in my family. I mean, in my mixed family, technically I'm not the baby, but in like my blood family, I'm the baby. And I really, really wanted to share to surprise everyone. So I didn't, no one knew that I was going through this. I mean, my husband knew. So I didn't have that outlet, to connect with someone who knew what I was going through. So that's why I think it's so nice that, you have your podcast. Like there's so many ways to connect now for women who are going through the same thing. And I feel like that would have been really helpful for me at that time. So I guess I say that because, you don't have to do it alone. There's so many women that are going through the same or a similar situation, and we all need connection, really, at the end of the day. So, and looking back on it, my oldest sister, she had to go through IVF. So I think that fear was always in the back of my mind. And then my second oldest sister, she had gone through a miscarriage as well. So now that I look back on the situation, it's like those two would have been the best like support system to talk to. But, I put that pressure on myself to be able to surprise my family. So I didn't have to feel so lonely on that journey had I not done that.
Were you able to give them that surprise though in the end?
I was. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, at least there is that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever think about reaching out to any support groups or anything like that?
I don't even know that I realized that there were any, you know. I don't I don't think that Facebook groups were what they are today. I'm not really sure. I at least doubt that there was as many of them, but I may not have had the awareness that that was an option. So, yeah, I just don't think that I even thought about it.
It's hard, because like you said, it's still something that so many people go through, but so many don't talk about it. So then you do
Yeah.
feel like you're just kind of over here on this island alone, like going through it by yourself.
Hmm.
And it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why do you think it's important to share your story and to be open about the infertility journey?
Yeah, I think it's important to, uh, you know, keep hope as well. Keep hope is keeping hope for your situation, because it can feel so hopeless at times and very frustrating, very draining. So many emotions come up that you may have never experienced before in your life. So being able to cope with those emotions. Um, so keeping hope alive. I definitely think advocating for your health is a huge, huge thing. Um, I learned more about that as I went through my pregnancy journey. I kind of got the same thing where there's so much you can do to support your health and your baby. And there was zero education on any of that from my midwife at the time. I say to advocate for yourself because I ended up switching doctors. So if you're not feeling the love and the support and like you're on the same page with your provider, just knowing that you have the option to switch or depending on where you live. I know some places, you only have so many options, but in standing up for yourself, if you have PCOS and your doctor is like, yeah, you can go on birth control and do this, like if you're educated and you know what your options are, you can go to them and say, I don't want to do this. I want to try different avenues. So, I mean, that's just one example of PCOS, but I think informing women about their choices is something I'm extremely, extremely passionate about. So then you can feel confident to advocate for your health and your well-being. Because I've heard so many horror stories about women going to their doctors with concerns and it just being brushed off and never really looked into. And that's just not right. And I think at the end of the day, you only know what you know, and that goes for the patient and the doctor. And the doctors, they can't know everything. I mean, even just looking at what I knew as a pharmacist to what I know now, I mean, I know so much more than what they taught in pharmacy school. So if if you can educate yourself and then kind of go to your doctor with your options and hold your ground, um, listening to that inner intuition. If you have something telling you that something doesn't feel right inside of your body or whatever it may be, just feeling confident to voice that. And then obviously, the last one is to find a community, find support to help get you through your journey because you don't have to do it alone. And that goes for everything, fertility, infertility, loss, pregnancy, motherhood. I mean, all of those things come with their ups and downs. I mean, they're all unique, but in a way, they all need support on one level or another. So just, making sure that you're not doing it alone and that you're seeking out support in a community.
You bring up a lot of really good points, and doctors, I know they can't know everything, but
Mhm.
I have been frustrated with the lack of knowledge they all seem to have about PCOS.
Yeah,
I remember after my rainbow daughter was born, they were asking me, as they always do, like after you have a baby, what birth control are you going to go on? And I said, I don't want to go on birth control because that's not good for PCOS. And
right,
I remember her response was, actually, it is good for PCOS because it helps you have a regular cycle. And I was just like, mm, okay,
right.
well, we'll talk about it later, but I think I'm just going
Hmm.
to switch doctors.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so many women that wouldn't know just because you only know what you know. So then they just, okay, sure, yeah, I'll take, just because they're in a white coat, that doesn't mean that they're the end all be all and that you have to do what they say. I mean, there's a lot of doctors out there that are so knowledgeable, but yeah, if something doesn't feel right to you, then you don't have to say yes right then and there. You can go home and research it and think about it and, feel into your body. How does that feel to you that to take, you know, birth control right after you've given birth? Does that feel right? Or do you want to kind of see where things go with your body and maybe try like the the FAM method, forget what it's, fertility awareness method. Yeah, so definitely just listening and trusting that voice is really, really big.
Do you find, I know that going through something like infertility, I mean, it's obviously a very emotional
Hmm.
time. Do you find that it's still like going through that affects you today? Or, did any of those emotions like stick with you or
Yeah, so we have been on and off with the thought of having another child, and I do think that there is still some like underlying like, well, it took so long last time, who know, if I wait for the quote unquote right time to have a second one, but then it takes another year, you know what I mean? So there's definitely still some underlying, I guess you could call it fear or doubt. But I have also done a lot of internal work and healing. And this is what I teach my clients. I think I would have a lot more trust in the timing of everything and just trust that it will happen. I know as cliche as it sounds, but it will happen when it's meant to happen. And something I've really kind of enjoyed myself is becoming more connected with my body and my cycle, because pretty much I was on the birth control for the 13 years. We were trying for 10 months. I was pregnant and then I was breastfeeding for a very long time. So I didn't even get my period back until like 2 years postpartum. So like it was like a whole new ball game, because really during that 10 months of trying to get pregnant, I was so consumed with getting pregnant that I wasn't really connecting with my body and my cycle. So I think connecting back to my cycle, learning, understanding, being able to work with my body um in a different way. Like I know the day or two before I'm going to start bleeding that I'm just like so exhausted, and to try to not schedule things during that time. And um where was I going with that? I'm trying to think. Trust. Yeah, I've gained a lot of trust in my body. So I think that will be helpful.
so now you are also coming out with a podcast next year. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so thank you for mentioning that. So it is called Rising into Mindful Motherhood. And I know my business is really solely focused on fertility, but I wanted this podcast to really range from fertility all through motherhood, because there are just so many pockets of time and seasons that we go through as women. And we're gonna be talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, definitely natural wellness tips that I have discovered throughout all of those journeys that I've been on. So fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and then into the thick of motherhood as well. So I'm going to have quite a mix of guests on there. I'm going to have people on there to share their stories. I'm going to have experts on there. I'm also going to be doing some solo episodes. So there's so much information and little tips and golden nuggets that you'll be able to get from this, that I hope it'll just be a really nice platform to feel connected and feel safe in sharing your stories.
Well, I can't wait to listen. It sounds like it's going to have so much helpful information. And, as mothers, I think it's good to support each other and I think that will be the perfect podcast for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited about it too.
So, if people wanted to find out more about your fertility coaching services, where would they go to find that?
So the best place to go to, and I just updated it, so I'm really excited, is my website. So that is happynourishedmotherhood.com.
Is there anything else that you want to share or add about just infertility or anything at all?
I think at the end of the day, knowing that your body is not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing that you did in the past or a past life or anything like that that is causing you to have these fertility struggles. It's not karma coming to get you. I think that those thoughts come up. They really like to rear their head when you're struggling to get pregnant. It did for me, and I know um, I've had women in my community talk about it too, but it's not your fault. And I do feel wholeheartedly that if you have a baby on your heart, it's there for a reason. And I hope that you and your spirit baby can find each other and be earthside together as well someday.
I know a lot of people that have struggled with that, including myself, that, we just want to blame ourselves like we did something wrong. We did something to somehow deserve it, or,
Hmm.
and I think it's an important point that you bring up to remember that it's nothing we did. We didn't cause it. Infertility doesn't discriminate.
Exactly. Hmm.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story and all of your wonderful advice for everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your story with us. I think it's really important to expand on the topic of not feeling worthy or feeling as though we did something to cause our infertility or our losses. So many times we blame ourselves. Oh, we must have done something wrong. We must be a bad person. We must deserve what is happening for some reason. I think a lot of it comes from not understanding why it is us that it happens to. Why us and not somebody else? Especially when we're hit with multiple things, like infertility and loss, or multiple failed fertility treatments, or multiple losses. It makes us start to feel like we weren't meant to be a mom in the first place, that the universe is somehow trying to tell us something. But I promise, that's not true. You did nothing to cause or create these obstacles in your life. You're not to blame, and you are absolutely worthy of being a parent to a living child. I had to remind myself often that sometimes bad things happen to good people. We don't have any control over it sometimes, but we can try to change our mindset and try to get rid of those negative feelings of self-worth. We can work on not hating our bodies, not feeling like they're a constant failure to us. I'm not saying it's always easy when you're truly in the thick of it. I'm always here to talk if you ever need someone to listen. And I just want to leave you with this. You are absolutely worthy of motherhood. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.